that will minimize it. It acts as a toggle switch. At the upper right, not the X, but the two arrows next to the X. Maybe yours already got minimized. I've heard sometimes students will... Okay, the only reason to minimize it is so that it doesn't take up so much of your screen and it doesn't cover up some of the stuff I'm going to be writing on my screen. In other words, the way this works is I'll write equations. Tell me if you can see this. I'll write all the way over on the right side of my screen. Can you read that? What's it say? Okay, so you're fine. Whatever you've got your GoToMeeting set on is okay. But that's the way it works, okay? Now, I try to do the problems that the student is doing in the school currently. You know, I'm trying to prepare you for your final. So the best way to do it is if you bring the problems to the session. And with algebra, a lot of the times you can verbalize problems. In other words, we'll say this was one of your problems, x plus 5 equals 10. How do you solve it? You could verbalize it. I can write it. Excuse me. And then we solve it together. Hopefully you solve it. But if you have algebra problems where they have given you a graph, and they want, say, the equation of that graph, I'm sure you've seen problems probably like that, then those are more difficult to verbalize, and you need to send me a picture. And let me put on here, we may want to go through this one time where you send the picture, because then the next time you do it, it's so much easier because it's in your default. But this is the email address that you should send any picture to. And if you have some like review material or a test you took, just hold your smartphone over the top of your camera and take a picture in good light and send it to that email address. Not my phone number, but that email address. And that way I'll be able to bring it up on the screen and we'll both be looking at it. And then we can deal with those. So for tonight, let's see. You're a freshman at Ralston Valley taking Algebra 1. What's the current stuff you're working on? What's your final going to be on? Okay, so systems of equations, where they give you two equations and you have to solve them. Simultaneous equations, okay. Okay. Now see, the simultaneous equations would be something you could verbalize. And I would just write both equations down and then we would go about solving them. But even the graphing, if they give you an equation and they say graph it, that's fine. You can just read the equation to me and then we'll go about graphing it on my screen. But if they give you a graph and they say come up with the equation of this graph, that's one that you're not going to be able to verbalize. You'd have to send. So, one thing I forgot to do, let's do it, is set up the audio here. You should have a microphone and speakers built into your laptop, I imagine. If you go back to the GoToMeeting control panel, open it up if it's not open, and go up to audio, where it says audio, and make sure you pick computer audio instead of phone call. It's probably currently set on phone call. Go ahead and pick computer audio, and then we don't have to have our conversation by way of a phone. We'll have it. You also may have to unmute that microphone. You know the picture of the microphone at the top left?
Yes.
It may have a line through it, so unmute it. I think I heard you. I'm going to hang the phone up.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, if you have both open, there's feedback. So this audio is actually quite a bit better. At least it is on my end. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, here, let me turn my volume up just a little bit. I'll be able to hear you a little bit better. Okay, and I am recording this session, so you will get a file tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning, on everything we covered.
Okay.
And it's in a YouTube format, so you can fast forward it or stop it. It's pretty useful, I think, when you're covering new information and stuff.
Yeah.
So, tonight's session is only a half hour. It's free. I don't charge for this first half hour session. And then I ask that you pay in advance for future sessions.
Okay.
You can mention that to your mom if she's not there. But she's certainly welcome to sit in on this session if she likes. So what do you have tonight? You want to try to verbalize some problems, or you want to send me a picture of your quiz or tests or review material?
I can verbalize it. I'm just trying to pull it up through my Google Classroom thing.
Okay, so you get all your problems off the internet.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we could do is I can pull that up on my end. Instead of you pulling it up, it depends. I don't care. You can make that decision, but especially if it doesn't require a password and it's just a web address that you go to.
I don't know for sure if it requires a password, so we could try it on your end.
Okay. If you want to copy and paste the URL address and place it in the chat room on GoToMeeting, then I'll be able to click on it and it'll pop up on my screen and we'll both be looking at it.
Okay.
You know how to copy and paste?
Yes.
Okay. And then the chat room down there, you might have to open it up. Mine was closed. And just paste it to where it says enter your message and then hit enter.
Okay.
And it'll go into the chat room and I'll be able to click on it. And we should be able to find out quickly enough whether it needs a password or not. Okay. So it showed up in my chat room. I'm clicking on it and now it should pop up on my screen. And I can save this if we need to get back to it at a later time. Fairly slow. Okay, now I've got it. You want to direct me through here? Should I click on Algebra 1? Is it unit?
Yeah.
Algebra 1, which unit?
Unit 2 to start.
Okay. Yeah, this works better, especially if it doesn't require any passwords. Now you don't have to verbalize or send me a picture.
Yeah.
We're both going to be looking at it. So where do you want me to click on? Must be December.
And one that probably says substitution homework.
Okay, I was going by the date. Let me start from.
It said solve and substitution. It's down one.
Do you know what date is on it on the left side? That's what
I'm trying to look.
I see it. Solving systems by graphing notes, solving systems by substitution,
Yeah, the 16 and 17 one.
Okay. Which one do you want me to click on? By the notes or there's two different links there?
The homework. So the solving systems by substitution, not the notes.
Right, okay. Okay, good. Here, let me blow this up a little bit so we can see it a little better, and then I can write also on it. All right. So, first of all, when you usually use substitution is when you have one of the equations fully defined in terms of one variable.
Yeah.
Notice the first equation is in standard linear format, but the second equation is in y equal mx plus b format. And it's fully solved for y. So it's relatively easy to use substitution for these types of problems. So what are we going to do?
Could we do 2?
Okay. 2 is a little different. Do you know how to do 1?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 is a little different in that we don't have one of the equations fully solved. So that's probably a good first step. So which equation should we solve? Which one is the easiest to solve?
Probably the top one.
Okay, solve it. And we would solve it for which variable?
Y.
Okay, so we got y. What's the first step going to be in solving that for y?
Wouldn't it just be writing out the full equation and then doing plus 5 and adding it to the other side?
Plus 5x, not plus 5. In other words, what we want to do here is we want to get y all by itself, which means I've got to get rid of that minus 5x. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. And what I end up with is y equals minus 5 plus 5x. See that?
Yep.
Now that we've solved for one variable, in this case y, doesn't really matter which variable. I could have solved it for x also. It's just it was easier to solve for y. Y only took one step. I just had to move the negative 5x to the other side. Okay. Now I'm going to use substitution, and I'm going to take that, and in the second equation, wherever I run into y, I'm going to put in parentheses what y is equal to. So tell me what I should write. I'll get you started. Minus 3x. Now help me.
So minus 3x plus 3, parentheses, negative 5 plus 5x, end of parentheses equals 9.
Yeah. Solve that. What's first step?
So first, when you put this, solve 3 times negative 5.
What you want to do is get rid of the parentheses.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get rid of the parentheses. Go ahead, tell me what I should write.
So negative 3x plus negative 15.
Okay, now that's a plus and a minus together, which means it's just minus 15.
So minus 15 plus 15 equals 15x.
Plus 15x, very important.
Equals 9.
Okay, good. Now what?
Then won't you combine terms?
Okay, do it. What's the next line?
So then it would be.
You're not only going to combine like terms, you're going to actually do two things. You're going to combine all the x's on one side of the equation, and you're going to combine all of the numbers that aren't with x's on the other side of the equation.
So then.
So you can do that in 2 steps if you want, but you can kind of think of it as one step. I'm combining all the x's, and I'm going to combine all the numbers. So what are all the x's equal to?
Positive 12.
12x, okay. And if I'm combining the numbers, I want to do it on the other side of the equation. So I'm going to leave the 9 over there, which means I got to move this 15 over there. How do I get rid of that 15 on the left?
Add it to 9.
Okay, which gets rid of it and gives us 24. Now what?
And then don't you divide from each side?
By what?
By 12.
Okay, so what's this going to say?
X equals 2.
Okay, now when all of these, you have to solve for both variables, except for number 4 where they give you one of them. But most of the other problems I'm looking at here, you need to solve for y also. How do I solve for y?
Wouldn't you get rid of, well, then do x equals?
No, here's the key equation right there. That equation has to apply. And we just solved for x. X is 2. So what's y going to be? What am I going to do? I'm going to substitute whatever x is.
Wouldn't it be just 5?
Correct. In other words, y is going to be minus 5 plus 5. And instead of x, I'm going to put 2 because I now know that x is 2. And that's equal to plus 5. So I have my two solutions. Y equal plus 5, x equal plus 2. I'm done with the problem. Okay? Let's do another one. You pick.
3.
Okay. How am I going to begin this one?
Choose whichever equation you want to use to solve for y.
Okay. Notice that this one's a little easier to solve for x. If I use the first equation, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
So all I got to do is add y to both sides, and I get x equals 5 plus y. And like I said, it doesn't really matter which variable you solve for. You solve for whichever one's the easiest to solve for. I could have solved for y, but I would have had to do 2 steps. Then I'd have had to move the 5 on the other side. I don't want to show to you that why you can use either variable. Okay? Now, we're going to go into the second equation. And what are we going to
do? Plug in that equation for x.
So tell me what to write.
So 5 parentheses 5 plus y minus 2y equals 22.
Okay, keep going with that. Just what I'd like you to do is just read the next line. You don't even have to tell me what you're doing. I'll be able to tell whether you're doing it right or not.
So read like the next line that would be put together.
In other words, the way you want to do these algebraically is one line at a time, most of the time one step at a time.
So then 25 plus y.
No. That 5 multiplies both terms. Keep going.
Minus 2y equals 22.
Okay, next line.
So 25 plus 3y equals 22.
Okay, next line.
So then wouldn't you do minus 25 on each side?
Correct.
Then negative, so
start with the left side. Always go from left to right.
Yeah, so 3y equals negative 3.
Good. And last step.
Divide each by 3.
Okay. So what's y equal to?
-1.
Okay, good. Now, how do I figure out what x is equal to?
So then do 5 plus -1, or 5 minus 1.
Okay, so what's x equal to?
4.
There's your two solutions. Okay. Now, number 4 is particularly easy. I hope we save a little bit of time. We only have 5 or 6 minutes. I'd like to do at least one by elimination just to show you that it's actually an easier method. First of all, what am I going to do on 4?
Wouldn't you rearrange it for the y is on top of the y and then the 3 is on top of the 22?
No. In other words, they've already solved the 1 for one variable. In other words, they're telling us what y is.
Oh, so we would
What
plug
we're going to
in.
solve for is x.
So we would plug in -3 to where y is?
Exactly. So the line would be minus 7x plus 5 times -3 equals -22. And now you're dealing with one equation, only one variable. You can always solve those. Minus 7x minus 15 equals -22. Minus 7x equals -7. X equals 1. We already knew what y was. Y is -3. So we're done. So this was only a one-step problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, can we go back and try some by elimination? Because they kind of go together. And frequently you're going to have to choose on your own which method to use. For instance, problem number 2 here would have been a little easier to solve by elimination.
Mm-hmm.
Because both equations are in standard format. Standard format being where you have ax plus by equals c. In other words, you have your x and your y terms on the left side of the equation, and you have a number on the right side.
Yeah.
Whenever you see an equation that's in that format, that's standard format, and if you have 2 of them in standard format, then elimination is almost always better. Okay, I think I can figure out how to do. Is that okay if we do that the last 5 minutes? Tackle one. Ellie, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, here, let me, let's see. If I go here, and I want, I guess the next section is you can choose your method. Which is fine. And there's also graphing. Let's look at question number 1. This'll do for demonstrating solving by elimination. Okay?
Okay.
The reason is that number 1, both equations are in standard format. Now, elimination is exactly what it says. Your first step is to try to eliminate one of the variables. And your choices are you can add or subtract these 2 equations. Well, if I do either add or subtract, I don't eliminate a variable. I get like 7x minus 3y equals 26. But we already know that you can do anything to the left side of an equation as long as you do it to the right, correct?
Yeah.
So if we take that top equation, 2x plus y, and we multiply it by 4, As long as I multiply the other side by 4, I can do that. It's an acceptable math step. What that gives me is now 8x plus 4y equals still 0.
Yeah.
Now, if I put the second equation directly under that, 5x minus 4y equals 26. Now notice that if I add those two equations, the y variable disappears. And that is why I multiplied the top equation by 4. It's because I'm trying to get it to a state where I can add the two equations and a variable disappears. Well, if I add these two equations, which you can also always do, I get 13x plus 0y, so I won't write it. Boom. I got the answer for x almost immediately. Now, in order to solve for y, I go back and pick either equation. What I always pick is the simplest one. What's the simplest one?
The top one.
Okay. Plug in 2 for x, solve for y. What do you get?
Would it be y equals -4?
Correct. And that's a perfect example of solving by elimination. Notice that I never at any point put either equation into a different format. Because all I did was operate on one of the equations so that, and it didn't matter which variable you eliminate. If it would have been more convenient to eliminate the x, I would have. There's no difference. In other words, the goal is to solve for both variables. So it doesn't matter which one you solve for first. So I always solve for the easiest one. And I can eliminate y easier than I can eliminate x. For me to eliminate x, I'd have to multiply the top one by 5 and the bottom one by 2. And then I could eliminate x, and that's more steps. So you generally want to do it in as few steps as possible. All right, it's probably a good place to stop, Ellie. Is your mom there? Maybe you could put her on and we can talk about what other times she's looking for an appointment.
Okay, I'm ready. What do you have? What are some other times?
When are you looking for?
Well, I was thinking the next time would be what? Well, she's saying Wednesday, but we have a play on Wednesday night. Do you usually do 1 hour sessions?
That's my normal, but I also, because it's online, I do half-hour sessions if that works. If that, sometimes that's all that works, just it's tough to meld schedules.
Okay, well, maybe we could do a half an hour on Wednesday, just because I know we have something going on in the evening that'll give her some time to do her other homework.
Okay, what time?
Wednesday.
I've got lots of openings on Wednesday. What time would you like?
What time would you like, Ellie? Could we do 4 to 4:30 again?
Sure. Or today was at 4.
Yeah, 4 to 4:30.
4 to 4:30. Okay. Yeah, that works good.
Okay.
Now, what I usually do, you already have the Goto meeting software on that computer now. So
yeah.
You don't need me to call her and work her through the download. So what I usually do is I text the meeting ID number at 4 o'clock to her.
Okay.
A phone. If you want to give me what phone you'd like me to use to do that.
Okay, she's going to give you the number right now.
720. 633.
633.
6868.
Okay. So
Do you do times on the weekends?
I do.
Could we do on Saturday for an hour? Because she has finals next week, and then she could kind of look at maybe some of the things she's struggling with.
Okay. So we're going to do 4 to 4:30 on Wednesday. And what time you want on Saturday?
What time would you like, Ellie? She's thinking.
And I can do in the morning.
12?
What's that?
Around 12, would that work?
Sure. You want to do noon to 1?
Noon to 1? I'm sorry, she said 11 to 12.
11 to 12. That'll work also.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay. Ellie, I look forward to working with you on Wednesday and next Saturday.
Thank you.
Talk to you then. You're welcome.
Thank you for your help.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
To close out a GoToMeeting, just click on that X in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.